I'd like to go across to Ariane Bogain, senior lecturer in French politics at Northumbria University. Good afternoon, rather. Thank you for joining us here on the program today. What did you make of Emmanuel Macron's speech? Was he successful in justifying his decision to dissolve Parliament?
Okay, I have to say I only saw the first half an hour. The day job then took over. What I saw, first of all, was the overall message is me or the extremes. It's a kind of me or chaos. Sorry. If you want stability, if you don't want political uncertainty, vote for me. Which was always going to be the way it was going to frame this. In terms of the speech, personally, I felt that it was far too long, and it's nothing new. We've heard this before in his various TV interviews in the past 2 months. And again, it's a clear lurch to the right with the focus on immigration, on laïcité, on security. So I'm not convinced that it will convince anyone. And actually, I think he should move away from the campaign, and he should let Gabriel Attal and he should let the candidates do the campaign. Now, if you forgive my football analogy, it's like when a manager loses the locker room, and when that happens, nobody really listens to you anymore. And I think this is what has happened with Macron. Last week, we had a whole week really of Macron talking because of the D-Day landing, loads of speeches, a TV interview. It's always the same and is not listened to anymore. So we could see where it's going with this, me or chaos, me or the extremes, vote for stability. But I don't think it was particularly inspiring. But I only saw the first half an hour. I didn't hear the question that journalists were asking.
Let me jump in there because we, as our international affairs editor Angela Diffley was saying, basically what Emmanuel Macron said, yes, it's either going to be you vote for chaos or you vote for me, and I'll continue to do what I've been doing. And this is the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, I think what is needed. And we didn't have that in 2022 because the presidential campaign was curtailed because of the situation in Ukraine. The parliamentary campaign was also very minimal. We never got a feeling of what do you want to do? What is your vision for French society? What is your vision? What are you trying to create? So he gave in that speech this morning a lot of lists, a long list of items or of topics that he'd like to tackle. And reforms, okay, but why do you need to do those reforms? What is the overall vision? And we still don't have that. So it might come with when the campaign starts properly. But I just felt this is reheated. It's more of the same. And apart from saying me or the chaos, what does it bring? What new things does he bring? And personally, I didn't see it this morning.
Ariane, we have less than 3 weeks to go. I believe we have 18 days or so until the first round of the vote. Things can happen, but let's just, for argument's sake, assume that the polls are going to be proven correct and that the far right does, in fact, make gains. What happens then? Will Emmanuel Macron be able to have a far right prime minister, given that he's not good with coalitions in government?
Well, I mean, there are two scenarios if the polls are right. One is the far right winning an absolute majority. So that would be 289 MPs. Currently, they have 89, so it would be an extra 200. It's difficult because the electoral system is very different from the European one. It's not proportional. It's 2 rounds. There will be some kind of anti-far right, Republican front. But it's not impossible. If that's the case, then Macron does not have a choice. He will have to appoint a far-right prime minister. If he doesn't want to do that, then the only possible solution would be to resign. And at the rate of things going the minute in France, it might happen.
Well, he's ruled out resigning.
I know.
I
I
want
know,
to
but
ask you about the possibility of the far left also making gains, because there is this
yeah,
loose left
yeah.
wing alliance for now, but Emmanuel Macron is trying to poke holes in that alliance as well. He sort of alluded to the fact that the France en bas, the far left
Yeah.
party led by Jean-Luc Mélenchon, is anti-Semitic based on certain statements that have been made.
I mean, look, it will all be down to numbers. If we have an absolute majority, either for the far right or for the left, for the united left, if it stays united, then Macron will have no choice. So the prime minister will either be far right or far left. If there is no majority and we have a relative majority, then it all depends on numbers. If it's a relative majority for his party or parties, then it's back to square one and we'll be in the same situation as now. If the relative majority is for the National Rally, then will they manage to hoover up enough, enough MPs to form an absolute majority? If it's the left who has a relative majority, then the same question will be asked. So anything can happen.
Indeed,
Anything can happen.
anything can happen. But one thing Emmanuel Macron said is he triggered this vote because he doesn't want to give the far right the keys to the Elysee Palace in 2027. But what, for argument's sake, if the far right does come out on top in these parliamentary polls and then doesn't really mess up, and like what we've seen in Italy with Giorgia Meloni, is Emmanuel Macron essentially normalizing the far right here?
Is you're totally right. It is because and the idea that you would have a far right prime minister and is bound to mess up. I mean, this is so wrong on so many levels. But yes, it would be normalizing the far right. And if the far right is half clever, they would know this and they would make sure that during the next 3 years they don't mess up too much. So if that is the bet, it's the most stupid bet I've ever heard. So sorry for being so blunt.
We like your honesty.
But I mean, I saw the polls yesterday, and they were predicting a victory for the far right. But we don't know if it will be an absolute majority, in which case there will be a far right prime minister unless Macron resigns, or if it will be a relative majority, and then who knows what's going to happen. Will there be all the other parties getting together to form their own majority? Because he can't dissolve the National Assembly for another year. Or will we have some kind of technical government like Belgium has known or Italy has known? So it's a big leap into the unknown. Obviously for him, the best scenario would be an absolute majority. I don't think he's going to get it. Or a relative majority, but then we will have had all this mayhem to basically go back to square one.
To end up where we were, exactly. Ariane,
Yeah.
always a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.